2019, Corbin Burnes had one of the worst pitching seasons in MLB history, but just 2 years later, he found himself bringing home one of the game's most prestigious honors in the Cy Young Award, a massive turnaround in such a short amount of time. Now, you might think he had to completely reinvent himself following his disastrous 2019 campaign, but what if I told you all he did was make one simple change, and ever since he's been one of the most dominant pitchers in baseball. But how did we get here? Corbin Burnes grew up just north of Los Angeles, California, attending Centennial High School, and during this time he impressed, especially during his senior season when he managed a 9-4 record with a 2.23 ERA in 22 appearances. And this success helped him earn a spot at St. Mary's College of California, a Division I team that has produced some quality names over the past few years, such as Patrick Wisdom of the Chicago Cubs and Tony Gonsolin of the Los Angeles Dodgers. In Burnes' first season playing collegiate ball, he had a tough go of things, managing a 6.18 ERA in 43 2/3 innings pitched, before finding his footing with a 3.74 figure in 89 innings during his sophomore season. He was also fortunate enough to join the Orleans Firehawks of the coveted Cape Cod Baseball League the summer heading into his junior year, and during this time he continued to find success with a 3.79 ERA in his 38 innings of work, helping him build confidence prior to his third season of college ball, where he finally broke out, posting by far the lowest ERA of his career while also pitching over 100 innings, a career first. And because of this, he became an intriguing target for most teams, and he was eventually taken in the 4th round by the Milwaukee Brewers. After signing with the Brewers, he began his journey in the minor leagues at rookie ball before finishing the season at Single A, and during his first go of things in the professional game, he was effective with a 2.02 ERA in 35 2/3 innings pitched, a great finish to his 2016 season. And in 2017, his first full season in the minors, he continued to make a name for himself. Across High A and Double A, he pitched to the tune of a 1.67 ERA in 26 starts, spanning 145 2/3 innings pitched. And following the season, not only did the Brewers acknowledge the incredible work he did by presenting him with their Minor League Pitcher of the Year award, MLB was also starting to take note of him too, ranking him as the 69th best prospect in all of baseball heading into the 2018 season. And despite getting rocked in AAA with a 5.15 ERA in 19 appearances to start the year, he was called up to the Major League squad on July 8th, 2018, making his debut just a couple days later on July 10th. Now, at the time, the Brewers already had the rotation figured out, and because of this, Burnes had to work exclusively out of the bullpen. Uncharted territory for him, but he didn't shy away from the opportunity and managed to face just the minimum in his 2 innings of work against the Marlins in his debut, even managing to record his first strikeout against Brian Holiday, as well as his first save of his baseball career. And down the stretch, he would continue to find success pitching in the pen with a 2.61 ERA in 30 appearances, totaling 38 innings. And at the end of the season, he was selected to the club's NLDS and NLCS rosters, where he continued to stand out, allowing just 2 earned runs in 9 innings of work in relief. But he was a starter. He grew up as one in high school, he was drafted as one out of college, and when he took home the club's Minor League Pitcher of the Year award just the year prior. That's why during the offseason leading up to 2019, he built up as a starter, and after a solid spring training showcase, he was awarded the 4th spot in the rotation to start the season. This was it. He was finally able to realize his dream of starting a Major League Baseball game. But things could not have gone worse for him in his first few starts. In his first outing against the Cardinals, although he struck out batters at an incredible rate with 12 in just 5 innings of work, he allowed 3 homers, costing him 4 earned runs. In his second start against the Cubs, he once again allowed 3 homers, this time getting touched up for 7 earned runs. Then in his third appearance against the Dodgers, they were also able to take him deep 3 times, and finally in his 4th start against the Cardinals, they were once again able to knock him out of the game early with 2 homers in just 3 1/3 innings, giving Burnes some ugly numbers after just 4 starts, with 11 home runs allowed and an ERA of 10.7. In fact, he became the first pitcher since at least 1995 to allow 11 home runs in his first 4 starts of his career. Yeah, I warned you, it was pretty bad. Because of this, he was sent back down to the minor leagues, and when he came back, he was no longer viewed as a starting option, rather a bullpen piece. Now, the year prior, he found great success pitching in relief. However, in 2019, he continued to struggle and managed just a 7.76 ERA in 31 1/3 innings pitched out of the pen, helping him finish the season with an ugly 8.82 ERA in 49 total innings of work. It doesn't take a genius to understand how bad that number truly is, but let me show you just how it stacks up to other all-time terrible seasons. In terms of Brewers franchise history, his negative 2.2 WAR became the 4th lowest amount by a pitcher, only only missing the top spot by .2. His ERA, on the other hand, became the highest among pitchers with at least 49 innings of work, and when comparing outside the Brewers, his .882 ERA ranks as the 21st worst single-season mark in MLB history. At this time, there was a lot of talk surrounding his name, about whether he would ever live up to the lofty expectations most placed on him after his dominant 2017 and 2018 seasons. Because in 2019, not much went right for him. But why? Well, first off, let's go over his four-seam fastball, because it was bad. Very, very bad. In fact, it ranked as the worst pitch in all of baseball in 2019, and remember back to when I mentioned he allowed 11 homers in his first 4 starts? Well, 9 of them were off this pitch, and in total 13 of the 17 homers he allowed were off his four-seamer. And yet, for some reason, he relied on it heavily at 52% of the time, and his secondary pitch, the slider, was used at 31%, a combination most powerful relievers use, not really starters. But now a word for today's sponsor, Under 510 Clothing. Now, I myself am a shorter guy, and maybe you are too. That's where Under 510 comes in. They specialize in comfortable and affordable clothing for all us shorter guys out there. They have joggers that wick away moisture to keep you dry and cool during the summer months, athletic t-shirts that wrap around the arms but give enough room in the chest, as well as many more that I'm sure you'll love. And with summer fast approaching, there is no better time to upgrade your wardrobe with Under 510. And by clicking the link in the description, you can get $10 off your first order of $50 or more. Alright, thank you 510 for sponsoring this video. Now back to the content. And another problem he faced were his platoon splits. Against righties, he allowed a .287 average and .830 OPS. Horrible numbers, don't get me wrong, but that's nothing in comparison to his stats against lefties, with his average rising by 111 points and OPS by a staggering 441. So, to reiterate, Burnes needed to improve upon his four-seam fastball, his pitch variety, and his stats versus lefties, 3 very key areas of a pitcher's job. And with less than 6 months until the original 2020 opening day, it was a safe bet that he wouldn't be able to overcome all these challenges in that short amount of time. However, after getting to work in the offseason at the Brewers' brand new pitching lab, he made a simple change that drastically improved the trajectory of his career. He got rid of his four-seam fastball. As mentioned, in 2019, he used his four-seamer 52% of the time, but in 2020, that figure dropped to just 2, with his sinker and cutter becoming his 2 most used pitches, and this new combo helped him improve upon practically all of his previous season's totals. In 2020, Burnes featured in 12 games, 9 of which being starts, and posted a .211 ERA, 13.3 strikeouts per 9, and finished 6th in Cy Young voting, a massive turnaround from 2019, with his ERA improving by 6.71, hits per 9 by 7.2, and home runs per 9 by 2.8. And as mentioned, this all stemmed from getting rid of his four-seamer, with him relying on his cutter and sinker an equal amount. However, against lefties, he threw his cutter more often at 45% of the time, and to better understand why, here's an example of it in action. As you can see, when a right-handed pitcher throws this pitch against a left-handed batter, it cuts in on him and oftentimes results in weaker contact closer to the batter's hands. For Burnes, utilizing this pitch against lefties helped him go from an almost 400 average and 1300 OPS against to just a 200 average and 581 OPS. Those are elite numbers. But I can't be ignorant to the fact that it was just 12 games, and players like Dinelson Lamet also had Cy Young caliber seasons in 2020. That's why come 2021, there was a lot of buzz surrounding his name, because with fans back in the stadium and potentially 30 starts ahead of him, would he finish with numbers closer replicating 2019, or would he be able to build upon his 2020 season? Well, to start 2021, Burnes, unlike Lamet, was able to assure everyone of his capabilities by striking out 58 batters before issuing a walk to Tommy Edman in his 34th inning of work. Then later on in the season, Burnes pitched the first 8 innings of a combined no-hitter, just the second in Brewers franchise history. And a month later, on September 11th against the Cubs, he struck out 10 consecutive batters, tying an MLB record. And following his outing against the Dodgers on October 2nd, he finished his historic season with the lowest ERA across both leagues at 2.43, as well as the lowest FIP at 1.63. with the difference between him and second place roughly the same as second place Zach Wheeler and 19th place Anthony DeSclafani. That's a big difference. Additionally, he managed the lowest home runs per 9 at just 0.4, a huge improvement from 2019 when he allowed 3.1, the third worst mark in baseball that season. And in the end, these figures helped him take home the Cy Young Award, narrowly beating out Zack Wheeler for first place. This was an incredible accomplishment for Burnes, who struggled immensely just 2 years prior with 3 demotions, the worst pitching season in Brewers history, and one of the worst in MLB. But that was all past him. Over the next couple of seasons, he continued to find success with this new pitching philosophy. In fact, he doubled down on his cutter and started to use it as his primary pitch, as shown in this graph with the brown line representing his cutter and the red one representing his four-seamer. And although he wasn't able to replicate his record-setting 2021 campaign, he was still able to find great success between 2022 to 2023, with his .316 ERA ranking as the 9th best in baseball, and his 395 2/3 innings pitched were the 7th best. But during this time, his relationship with the Brewers became damaged beyond repair when the two sides met for arbitration prior to the 2023 season. During this time, Burnes felt as though the club attacked him at a personal level, particularly when they mentioned he was the reason why they missed the playoffs in 2022. For reference, that season he had a .294 ERA, started the most games in the entire league, had the most strikeouts, and finished 7th in Cy Young voting. Yeah, I don't think it was his fault. Also, this dispute was for just $740,000, and don't get me wrong, that's a life-changing amount of money, but for the Brewers, that's chump change, and yet they decided to bash their star player, a man who had given his all for the organization for almost a decade. And because of this, as well as him entering his final season of club control in 2024, he was moved to the Baltimore Orioles for Joey Ortiz, DL Hall, and a 2024 second-round pick. This deal was a match made in heaven. For one, Burnes got away from the front office and owners who undervalued him, and secondly, the Orioles were in desperate need of help, because although they won over 100 games for the first time since 1979 last year, they didn't seem like a team that would make it far in the playoffs, and in the end, they got swept by the Texas Rangers in the ALDS, with their starting pitchers going a combined 8 innings, allowing 13 earned runs. It was obvious this was the area in which they lacked the most, and Burnes has helped give them the front-of-the-line ace they have lacked for years. In his first 13 starts, he has a .226 ERA and an ERA plus of 163. For reference, he had a 170 figure during his Cy Young winning season, showing that he is pitching about as well as he ever has. And his efforts have helped the Orioles to a 39-22 record, putting them on pace for over 100 wins as they look to obtain their first World Series trophy since 1983 later this year. And they will be doing this with Corbin Burnes leading the charge for their pitching staff, which, when thinking back to his earlier career struggles, it's remarkable how he went from having one of the worst pitching seasons in MLB history to a Cy Young winner just 2 years later, to now the most important pitcher on the team with one of the brightest futures in the sport. And it's crazy to think that this has all stemmed from one small change.